evening and welcome to the Newshour Agenda. I'm Madhavdas. Viewers, America has decided who their next president will be. Donald Trump has staged a stunning political comeback and is all set to become the 47th president of the United States of America. What once appeared to be a tight contest ended up in a landslide victory of sorts for Donald Trump and Republicans. Kamala Harris and her Democratic Party, which made the threat to democracy one of the main election narratives, has fallen far short. Both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris repeatedly claimed that Donald Trump was an existential threat to the democracy, urging voters to stop his return. In fact, President Joe Biden went to the extent of ridiculing Trump supporters and referred to them as garbage. Here's a quick recap of the kind of narratives that Team Kamala tried to push during the campaign season.
Donald Trump is an existential threat to our democracy and our most fundamental freedoms. Remember the chaos, the division, the attacks that took rights and liberties from the American people. We cannot allow that to happen again.
He who has vowed, if re-elected, he would be a dictator on day one. That he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Anybody who wants to be president of the United States, who has called for the, quote, termination of the Constitution of the United States, should never again have the ability to stand behind the seal of the President of the United States.
America, as we began this election year, we must be clear. Democracy is on the ballot. Your freedom is on the ballot.
Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is just supporters.
Election results in the United States have also sparked off a political slugfest here in India, with NDA leaders celebrating Trump's return, saying that Save Democracy pitch has flopped in the United States just like it did in India in the 2024 Lok Sabha polls. They say, and they call the democracy under threat narrative a fear-based strategy which has failed many times here in India as well.
I think that sometimes voters move beyond fear. Spreading fear is very different from spreading hope. And I think that in India as well, there was a fake narrative that was very prevalent during the Lok Sabha elections.
We have seen that it is a defeat of this democracy khatre mein hai, Samvidhan khatre mein hai narrative. The idea to scare people that if the verdict does not go in your favor, democracy has lost. This is from the playbook and handbook of woke left liberals.
A false narrative was built that democracy is going to be destroyed and that this would be the last election in each of the country. They said in India during the campaign that democracy is being destroyed, especially by the dynasty of the Congress party.
Meanwhile, there appears to have been a near meltdown in the opposition camp, with Congress questioning the celebratory mood in the BJP camp, the DMK calling the assassination attempts on Trump a poll gimmick which he copied from India.
मेरी समझ से बाहर है कि ट्रंप के जीतने की इस कदर खुशी भारतीय जनता पार्टी को क्यों है? अमेरिका की डेमोक्रेसी से भारत की डेमोक्रेसी का कोई मुकाबला नहीं किया जा सकता।
एक तो मुझे बहुत अफसोस लगता है कि ऐसे चरित्र के आदमी जिनको कि अमेरिका की कोर्ट्स ने ही फेलन बताया है और जिसके इतिहास में लिखा है कि वो वैश्यों के पास जाता है और उनको पैसे देता है मुंह बंद करने के लिए, कि ऐसे जलील आदमी को दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा प्रेसिडेंट चुनकर निकाला है.
But Republicans, particularly Trump, had resorted to many gimmickry, like 2 shooting incidents. These are all incidents which we have seen in India that he has copied. Maybe some advisors from India had told that you play a drama so that we can win.
You're watching the News Hour at 10. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
Greetings across to our panelists. Joining us is Pradeep Bhandari, national spokesperson of BJP. Karthikeya Tanna, author and columnist, is with us. Tehseen Poonawalla, political analyst, is with us. Ghanshyam Tiwari is national spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. Anish Gawande is national spokesperson of the NCP-SP. Let me start with you first and foremost, Tehseen Poonawalla. I'll get into the democracy debate, but I want to get a quick reaction from you on what Mr. Manishankar Aiyar is saying. Here is a man who has been elected the 47th President of the United States, the world's oldest constitutional democracy, and Manishankar Aiyar is immediately rushing in to character assassinate him, bringing up all his past crimes, court cases. He's not, perhaps he's not factually untrue in terms of referring to the court cases. But what kind of compulsion is there to refer to that on a day that a person has just won the election?
Good evening, Madhav. Thank you for having me on the show. At the onset, many congratulations to President Trump and to the Republican supporters. Look, I'm only looking at this from an Indian point of view, as we all are, whichever side of the divide we are. And frankly, I mean, Manish should learn to keep his mouth shut. Every time there's an election, Manishankar Aiyar and the people, they open their mouth, they create these sensational news. And I guess you guys in the media, I can't blame you, can't shoot the messenger. Take those bites, so you guys go to him. I mean, what is Manishankar Aiyar's relevance that you guys go and take a bite from him or that other first guy who spoke out there? So, look, let's speak on the fundamental issues. There will be some good aspects for India, there will be some worrying aspects for India. My concern as an Indian is the worrying aspect. So while President Trump and my Prime Minister Modi share fantastic personal equations, we must remember, despite Prime Minister Modi being in office, President Trump clamped down on H-1B visas. He called this taking away of American resources, almost draining American resources. That's point number one. When we had a problem with Pakistan, he pressurized India that he wanted to intervene in the Pakistan-India problem, and that is strictly against India's policy. India and Pakistan will settle our own issues. We don't like third-party intervention. We are very clear that's the basis of the Shimla Accord. Third, the way he negotiated the pullout with Taliban led India to a lot of problems. India was left hanging high and dry. Fourth, we are again going to West Asia, an area that is of strategic importance to us. Okay. He's encouraging Israel to hit Iran's nuclear.
We'll delve into all the international relations, Tehseen, but I want to draw you back to the primary issue and the entire debate surrounding democracy, and I want to bring in Pradeep Bhandari on that. Pradeep, respond to Tehseen, but at the end of the day, do you think that the save democracy cry which we saw in the Lok Sabha elections, what we've seen today in the United States, does it have implications for that?
Well, Madhav, thank you so much for having me on your show, and good evening to the viewers of Times Now. Well, Madhav, make no mistake that there is a huge lesson for individuals in India too. The lesson is the following, according to me. A, that those who deride the will of the majority will always be rejected. Those who deride the culture of the country, those who believe that those who speak about the culture of the country, those who speak about nationalism, individuals who call them communal will always be getting a rejection by the people of India. Those, when they lose, they blame the EVMs, blame the democratic institutions, will always suffer. There is a huge lesson, Madhav, that the left liberal cabal and the politicians who support the left liberal cabal and blame the voters whenever the verdict does not go in their favor, this is a huge lesson for them. Mind you, what is the larger lesson? That even if you have huge money, if you have the entire cabal with you, if you have the entire ecosystem, everything with you, but if you do not believe in the will of the people, if you do not respect the will of the people, if you fearmonger, spread fake narratives, ultimately you will be defeated. That's the lesson for politicians in India who continuously fearmonger, who when they lose, challenge the democratic institution, who spread fake narrative, who try to divide society. And above all, the biggest, according to me, lesson is that your cultural identity is important. Your nationalist identity is important. And if voters reflect that, do not call voters communal, do not say voters as idiots, as some quote-unquote psephologists do. So I believe that it's a huge democratic lesson for everybody in public life, in particular in India, who lose successive elections and blame voters. And I will end with 5 seconds. Tehseen, if the Congress party suspends and removes Manishankar Aiyar from the Congress party, media will not take bite of Manishankar Aiyar.
Okay, let me bring in Ghanshyam now because there are a number of points and we have limited time. Ghanshyam, end of the day, a lot of parallels that have been drawn over here by Pradeep Bhandari. You saw, in fact, Milind Deora earlier saying that there's been an atmosphere of fear-mongering here in India, which is similar, insulting the electorate and then trying to find excuses, as we're seeing, of course, some other people blaming social media algorithms for the electoral outcome. It couldn't get more similar, is what the BJP is saying. Please respond to them.
Good evening, Madhav, to you, my fellow co-panelists and the viewers. There are three important things. First and foremost, this decisive victory of Donald Trump is a message for the entire democracy of the United States, when people were fearing that an indecisive mandate will lead to more violent outcomes. That's point one. Point two, and more importantly for India, I think it's a huge accomplishment by Vice President Kamala Harris, a person of Indian origin, a woman of color, to rise to the stage, run the shortest campaign ever for a president of the United States, fight it out, and step in as the voice of women in the United States. I think in their celebratory note for Trump, BJP is forgetting that Kamala Harris is a person of Indian origin, and it is a massive accomplishment that must be celebrated by people of India. The point number three is, it is for BJP to say, to find parallels. Batenge to katenge is not what opposition is saying. It is similar to Hindu khatre mein hai, batenge to katenge, meri jaan khatre mein hai. All these are narratives that BJP has championed. So if they are calling out, Milind Deora is calling out somebody, he is calling out BJP. As far as the danger that Indian democracy faced in the Abki Baar 400 Par campaign were thwarted by the people of India, especially people of Uttar Pradesh, that ensured that BJP is defeated in their bastion of hate politics, which they had made Uttar Pradesh as. They were defeated in Ayodhya, they were almost defeated in Banaras, they were defeated in Prayagraj. So there is no point to take home that BJP has. My final point is, irrespective of Donald Trump's victory, I celebrate the fact that Kamala Harris, a person of Indian origin, ran the shortest campaign and yet achieved a very, very close outcome and became a voice of women in America.
All right. Karthikeya Tabra, in fact, would you like to respond to that? End of the day, it is BJP that is indulging in fear-mongering, and the BJP accusing the opposition is a bit rich, is what Ghanshyam Tiwari is saying. Please respond to him.
No, I think, good evening, Madhav. I think when the BJP says, batenge to katenge, that is basically in response to the attempts by the opposition to divide society. And we saw that in the 2024 elections, with this, casteism and the increasing focus on, dividing people on the basis of caste, asking for a caste census and, all kinds of things that, how many people of what caste are in the army. We don't need to go into all of that. There are definitely parallels between any election anywhere in the world, any democracy with India. I mean, I'm not saying it's completely identical. The US is a different system. One important thing is that the reason why there's a decisive mandate in favor of Trump is because Trump is authentic, whether you like him or not. He's nasty, he's obnoxious at times, he's vicious, but he is authentic. He is who he is. He shows you, as Manishankar Iyer said, that yes, he gave hush money to a porn star. He doesn't hide it. Trump doesn't hide it, and he still won a decisive mandate, because what we have to realize is that what people ultimately want is a better future for themselves and a better present for themselves than the one they've been having. This is what people don't understand. They don't care about Bill Clinton was a womanizer. Bill Clinton had an affair with an intern. Still he was, he's still remembered fondly as, one of the greatest presidents in the last, few decades or so. The other thing is, the lesson for politicians, both in India and even in the US, as the Democrats might have realized, is that, you cannot be a chameleon in today's day and age. Kamala Harris, unfortunately, was a chameleon. She did not stand for any one thing. When she was asked, about any issues, she would, vacillate. She would have one thought 5 years ago, another thought now, or she would not even respond. You cannot be that chameleon. It's the same lesson that some rival politician in India could, glean from. You cannot be one day a Janodhari Brahmin, and then on the other hand, you stand with people who basically want to challenge Hindus to face them, without police for 15 minutes. The other learning is that, you cannot change the candidate midway and then think that there is a captive vote bank that will vote for you no matter what. And that's the lesson that Congress learned in 2014 and 2019. Yes, 2024 wasn't ideal for the BJP, but still, the fact is, Prime Minister Modi is still the Prime Minister today. So I think there are many lessons here for the next elections, whenever they are. Hopefully, we have the full 5-year term. The next election will draw a lot from the decisive mandate that America has given to not just Trump, by the way, even the Republicans, because they have captured the majority in the Senate, and they might very well capture the majority in the upper house. So that, and Trump might win the popular vote, which is right. Which is what hasn't happened in a long time. So decisiveness has been a feature in this, and I think that's a lesson.
Let me bring in Anish Gawande on that. Anish Gawande, the flip-flops that are often seen by opposition politicians here in India, says Kartikeya Tana, is a big lesson, because that's clearly what he believes Kamala Harris stood for. Trump, despite all the plethora of controversies, all the attacks on him, the entire kitchen sink was thrown at him in terms of legal action, so on and so forth, when he contested for election the last time round. And that really, of course, is the message coming in from this, that narratives are fine, but there are fake narratives, and there are fake narratives. In this particular case, Trump seems to have trumped everyone else.
Madhav, I've listened very patiently, and I heard my dear friend Milan's comment at the very beginning saying that there should be a message of hope instead of another message. Just today, Sadabhav Khote, who's an MLC who's been supported by the BJP, has made an outrageous statement against Pawar Sahib, saying that does Sharad Pawar want to change the face of Maharashtra like his own face? Is this the culture of India that my dear friend Pradeep Bhandari wants to uphold and his party wants to uphold? Is the authenticity that my other fellow panelists spoke about this kind of authenticity that reflects itself in our politics today? So to begin with, I would like to ask the national spokesperson of the BJP to first clarify his party's stance on his own members' comments today and apologize on national
television. No, obviously, if he said that, and I haven't seen that comment, obviously it's distasteful, but let's come back to the subject.
Today.
Pradeep can answer that, I have no problem, but please answer the question that Kartikeya has posed to you.
No, but I think the real answer to that question, very directly, Madhav, is that this is not a fake narrative. In a state like Maharashtra, you've seen a Public Safety Act being introduced that will label anybody an urban Naxal depending upon the government's whims and fancies. After public protest, that act is withdrawn and the bill is taken away from discussion. When you're seeing a case like Badlapur, 300 people who are protesting on the streets are charged by the police, but those who are waiting outside the police station for justice for their kids are not given justice. So this protection of the constitution is not a fake narrative. It's playing out on the streets of Maharashtra today. It's playing out on the streets of this country today, where there are rogue mobs roaming around the streets of this country, in Pune recently with guns in their hands. So to call it a fake narrative is to ignore the reality of the situation, and ignoring the reality is what got the BJP to the 240 seats they arrived at and the defeat that they saw in Maharashtra. And if they want to continue believing it's a fake narrative, then they'll see that defeat being replayed on the 23rd of November.
No, but the reactions coming in, Anish, where you have a DMK spokesperson saying that the assassination attempts on Mr. Trump were a gimmick. Come on, that's in very poor taste. He's a person who's just won the election. There was a shooting, as we all know. He was injured in it. Calling it a gimmick, I mean, who would play with their lives like that?
Comments we'd have.
Anish, question for you.
And of course those comments are distasteful and should be ignored and somehow rejected.
Okay. I'm glad at least you're rejecting those comments. Of course, not your party spokesperson. But Pradeep, respond to this statement of Anish Gawande, because he says that fears of the constitution and the constitutional norms being diluted of the BJP are very real. We've seen what's happened here in Maharashtra, says the NCP Sharad Pawar faction spokesperson. Please respond to him.
Well, Madhav, point number one is I don't need any moral lectures from NCP, because their party has not yet suspended and rejected those who call women as imported mal, those who call women as bakri. It was supported by Sanjay Raut. This is how they treat the women of Maharashtra, and that is why they were defeated in Haryana. They still are not able to understand the reality that for the first time in 50 years, the government has repeated for the third consecutive time in center. They can live in that. Mind you, and may mark my words, it will be Prime Minister Narendra Modi who will form the government in 2029. Anish can give his logics and be in opposition. And again, I don't need moral lectures from him, because his Maharashtra Congress leader, Mr. Vijay Vatakar, uses terms like nalayak for voters. So they abuse voters, they hate voters. We respect Pawar Sahib, but we reject those who call women as imported mal. If I get a public apology, if I get those leaders suspended from their alliance, then I will come and answer Anish. So those who are absolutely immoral, unethical, they should not give us lectures on morality. Now let me come back to Anish not understanding and realizing what is happening on the ground. Their fake news worked once. It is apparent that aberrations happened, but aberrations are not matter of rule. This is where in Haryana, the Dalits also voted us, every caste voted us, and you save it for the 23rd of November. Anish will know that he has to blame the EVMs and the democratic institution when the people of Maharashtra will reject their anti-women alliance. On Ghanshyam's point, Ghanshyamji should know that the Indo-Americans have voted for Donald Trump, and it is Kamala Harris, as per Economic Times, who rejected and cast aside her Indian identity. So as per the Indo-Americans living there, they had voted the Republicans. So let's not draw this divide. And also the wife of the vice president is as equal an Indian as Kamala Harris is. So let's not be selective in taking that narrative forward. The only lesson is the will of the people is supreme. Whatever the will of the people for whatever party it is, we should not blame our democratic institutions and not abuse voters like the India Alliance does when they lose elections.
Okay, Tehseen, respond to Pradeep, but I wanted to ask a simple question. You know, there are comparisons. Sam Pedrola do a comparison recently of the US-Mexico refugee crisis with the India-Pakistan relations and Muslims in India. You know, is that a fair comparison at all? The ground realities are just so different in terms of the history, in terms of what's happened here in the past. So, you know, drawing comparisons is fine, but one has to have some kind of limit as to what one is actually comparing something to.
Mani Shankar Iyer, Sam Pedrola, the gems never stop. Let's focus on the issues that the BJP spokesperson raised. So let's try and focus on the issues. Now let me try and, because they didn't answer one question that was of national importance. Not one question that the BJP spokesperson answered. So now let's get it down to the level that the BJP wants it. Prime Minister Modi campaigned for Trump in 2020. Trump lost. Now he didn't campaign. Trump won. Look. You can look at it in any way you want to look at it. Chemistry, Abki Baar Trump Sarkar, it didn't work. Now they stayed away, he won, and the Indian Americans voted. Look, at the end of the day, there is only one issue. If Trump is a nationalist, which he is, his national interest is not India. I don't know why the BJP is celebrating. BJP supporters are those who admire, I mean, I'm not talking BJP supporters, but I'm just saying, BJP supporters are those who run with the bull and want to hunt with the hare. The fact of the matter, run with the hound and want to hunt with the hare. The fact of the matter is that can we talk about what is our national interest? Is our national interest going to be addressed? We have concerns with Bangladesh. We have Sheikh Hasina still in India. It is a regime change that America has brought in. They are not changing their foreign policy. They want to attack Iran. West Asia will be destabilized. What is the BJP and the government's plan? Okay. Yesterday, last evening, Hindus in Bangladesh were attacked. The real minister will make another reel. Let
me bring in Karthike on that. Karthike?
What has our Prime Minister done?
Okay, Tehseen, those are points that you've made. Let's get a response from Karthike. Karthike, the Prime Minister campaigning for Trump, whether or not that made a difference in this election. Nevertheless, India has some serious concerns, and those concerns include India's neighborhood, Bangladesh in particular. There are also issues of tariffs, there are issues of immigration, H-1B visas, etc., and concerns that have been expressed in the past. Please respond to all the points that has been made by Tehseen.
No, of course, I absolutely agree with Tehseen that just because Trump is elected does not mean that he is going to be pro-India. He ran on a pro-America platform, and that is what any leader of any country should do. I mean, Modi is not going to run on a pro-America platform. I mean, that's obvious. We shouldn't be blinded by that. The fact is, first of all, I should correct Tehseen's lie. Modi did not campaign for Trump. The statement is very clear. He actually said that the words that you used in your 2016 campaign, they rang loud and clear. It's basically because Trump effectively coined his slogan for the Indian American voters based on Modi's slogan. That's all Modi was referring to. But let's leave that. That's been debunked several times. With regard to BJP supporters getting happy about it, well, this is a moment of happiness and inspiration, and I'll tell you why. Because as Pradeep ji just mentioned, you know, how the opposition calls voters by names, Nalayak and many other things. I mean, Rahul Gandhi called the people of Amethi superficial because Amethi chucked him out in 2019. So same way, the Democrats in the US have called voters, you know, fascist, Nazi rally, and this and that, you know, all kinds of names. and they gave a befitting
Right.
response. And I think that's where BJP draws some kind of an inspiration from this, comeuppance of sorts, this comeback of sorts by Donald Trump. And it's not celebration; it's more an inspiration for the next set of elections as well as 2029.
Well, will that entire political narrative have further implications for India? We'll find out, of course, in coming days. But Pradeep Bhandari, Kartikeya Tanna, Tehseen Purawala, Ghanshyam Tiwari, Anish Gawande, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this evening.